Sandra, a gentle German shepherd, was brought to the White Lion Wildlife Area on a calm afternoon to take care of 2 weak lion cubs. They were left by their mother, a lioness named Sirona, who turned them down because she was having trouble with her own problems. They had no idea that Sandra's arrival would lead to a bond so strong that it would amaze everyone. But what happened next made no one on the backup staff say a word. Watch the story on Animal Needs Love today to find out. In the heart of a peaceful wildlife reserve called White Lion, a remarkable story was about to unfold. This small sanctuary, nestled in a lush green landscape, was home to a variety of exotic animals, all carefully nurtured and protected by a dedicated team of veterinarians and wildlife experts. Among the many animals was a lioness named Sirona, who had been brought to the reserve after a near-fatal illness left her struggling to survive in the wild. Despite the love and care she received from the reserve staff, Sirona remained emotionally distant, in her once vibrant spirit clouded by trauma. Her arrival at White Lion was meant to be a new beginning, but fate had other plans. Everyone thought Sirona was going to be a great mom, but her instincts would fail her in a way that no one could have seen coming. On September 18th, Sirona gave birth to 2 beautiful cubs, a brother and a sister. Workers were happy because they thought Sirona's healing would make her feel like a mother again. Although, what happened next was not at all what they had expected. The lioness wasn't acting like a mother because she was still hurting from her past. She neglected her kids instead of caring for them with love. Staff members were shocked and silent as Sirona kept her distance from the tiny creatures, failing to care for or protect them. The reserve staff hoped that, with time, Sirona would come around, that her motherly instincts would kick in. They waited anxiously for 3 days, hoping she would change her mind. But day after day, the lioness remained detached, and the cubs' condition grew worse. They were hungry, weak, and vulnerable. It became clear that Sirona, unable to bond with her cubs, was not going to care for them. On the 4th day, the decision was made to intervene. The cubs were taken from their mother's side, leaving Sirona in her isolation. The cubs, a brother and sister, were in desperate shape. They were emaciated, their tiny bodies trembling with hunger, and the staff feared they might not survive. Sirona's rejection had left them without the vital nourishment they needed, and with each passing hour, their chances of survival grew slimmer. The veterinarians at the reserve immediately began feeding the cubs a special milk formula, hoping to restore their strength. Though they managed to get some nourishment into the cubs, their situation was still dire. The staff knew that milk alone wasn't enough. They needed a mother's care to thrive, to grow strong like the African predators they were destined to become. The clock was ticking, and the reserve staff desperately searched for a solution. The cubs were in grave danger, and the path forward was uncertain. Little did they know, help would come from an unlikely source, a mother who wasn't even of the same species. In a neighboring town, a family had a German shepherd named Sandra. She had recently given birth to a healthy litter of puppies, and her nurturing instincts were well developed. When the staff at White Lion were faced with the challenge of finding a mother to care for the abandoned lion cubs, Sandra's name was suggested. The veterinarians knew that, while unconventional, dog's milk could serve as a viable option for many species, including lion cubs. After some discussion, Sandra was brought to the reserve to meet the cubs, and everyone was hopeful but uncertain. In a neighboring town, a family had a German shepherd named Sandra. She had recently given birth to a healthy litter of puppies, and her nurturing instincts were well developed. When the staff at White Lion were faced with the challenge of finding a mother to care for the abandoned lion cubs, Sandra's name was suggested. The veterinarians knew that, while unconventional, dog's milk could serve as a viable option for many species, including lion cubs. After some discussion, Sandra was brought to the reserve to meet the cubs, and everyone was hopeful but uncertain. The cubs, once fragile and weak, started to grow stronger as Sandra provided them. With the nourishment they so desperately needed, she not only fed them but also groomed them with her rough tongue, keeping them clean and free from infection. It was clear that Sandra wasn't just giving them milk, she was offering them the love and care they had missed out on from their own mother. The cubs began to thrive under her watchful eye, and the staff couldn't help but marvel at the unusual but beautiful relationship unfolding before them. Weeks passed, and the cubs, once frail and vulnerable, began to show incredible progress. They gained weight, their fur grew shinier, and their playful nature emerged. The little lioness, once weaker than her brother, started catching up in size and strength. Her health, which had initially concerned the veterinarians, was now stable thanks to Sandra's dedicated care. Sandra's protective instincts were unwavering. Every day, she would stand guard as the cubs played in the enclosure, keeping a watchful eye on them as they explored their new world. She would often nudge them gently, making sure they stayed safe. At night, she would curl up next to them, providing warmth and comfort, just as a mother would. The bond between the cubs and their adoptive mother grew stronger with each passing day. They trusted her completely, and she in turn gave them all the care they needed to become strong and healthy. But as the cubs grew, so did their size and strength. Soon they were larger than Sandra, and their sharp claws and teeth began to pose a risk to the dog. The staff knew that Sandra could no longer safely care for the cubs, and with heavy hearts they made the difficult decision to move her back home. It was a bittersweet moment for everyone involved. Sandra had played a pivotal role in saving the cubs' lives, but now it was time for them to continue their growth in a more suitable environment. The cubs were moved to a new, more spacious enclosure where they could roam freely and continue to develop into the powerful, majestic creatures they were destined to become. They had grown far beyond the fragile, helpless cubs they once were, and the staff could see that they were now strong and confident young lions and lionesses. But as Sandra left the reserve, there was a lingering sense of gratitude from the staff and the cubs themselves. Sandra had given them more than just milk. She had given them a chance at life. 2 years had passed since Sandra, the German shepherd, had last seen the lion cub she had nursed and cared for. The cubs had grown into beautiful, majestic creatures, an adult lion and lioness, their sleek golden coats now gleaming in the sunlight. They had become the pride of the White Lion Reserve, both healthy and strong, a testament to the power of maternal love and the extraordinary bond between species. Sandra's owner, invited by the reserve's director, returned with Sandra to see how the cubs had turned out. The once tiny, fragile creatures were now powerful, confident predators, and everyone at the reserve was eager to witness the reunion. The staff was filled with mixed emotions, excitement, apprehension, and curiosity. What would happen when Sandra, the adoptive mother, was reunited with the lions who had once relied on her for survival? Would they remember her after all this time? As Sandra entered the enclosure, the reserve staff stood in silence, holding their breath. The lions, now fully grown, noticed the familiar scent in the air. For a moment they froze, their piercing eyes focused on Sandra. Then without warning, the lions approached her, their powerful bodies moving with purpose. The staff braced themselves, unsure of what might happen next. But then, something incredible occurred. The lions, who had grown up as fierce predators, began to sniff Sandra, their noses gently pressing against her fur. It was as if they instantly recognized her. Their earlier wariness melted away as they began to nuzzle her, rubbing their thick, muscular bodies against the dog, just as they had. when they were tiny cubs. Sandra, with a gentle demeanor, responded in kind, licking them lovingly, just as she had done when they were small. The sight of the adult lions, once abandoned and fragile, now seeking affection from the dog that had saved them, brought tears to the eyes of the staff. Standing off to the side, the backup director was shocked as he watched the scene play out. During his work, he had seen a lot of amazing things, but this was the most unusual thing he had ever seen. Sandra, the German Shepherd, was once again the mother of these two strong animals. The time and distance had not changed how much she loved them. The reunion was brief but profoundly emotional. The lions lay down beside Sandra, their massive bodies curled protectively around her, as if they were the tiny cubs she had once nursed back to health. The staff, many of whom had cared for the cubs from the beginning, couldn't contain their emotions, and some were visibly wiping away tears. It was a powerful reminder of the extraordinary connection that can exist between animals, one that transcends the boundaries of species and defies all expectations. Sandra had not only saved the cubs' lives, but had also shown the world the true meaning of motherhood, a love that knows no bounds. That's the end of the story today. What do you think of Sandra's extraordinary journey as a mother to two lion cubs? Have you ever witnessed a bond like this between animals? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel. Animals need love, so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support. Wishing you all peace, happiness, take care, and we'll see you in the next one.